Hi everybody, and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Relationships, and it's by user Deleted, Recovered, Baby Fratelli. My sister, 15 female, won't stop catfishing people, and I'm, 21 female, running out of ways to help her or get her to stop. So essentially, it's all in the title. My little sister has been catfishing people to varying degrees since she was 12. Just recently, as in yesterday, it's been revealed she was at it again. Here's how the cycle usually goes. She meets people some way online and takes on a kind of persona. The person is her, but she lies about things like hobbies and interests. For example, she often tells people she's a dancer, when really I and our older brother are dancers. She does this slightly differently each time, but usually mixes her own personality traits in. She forms real bonds with these people, sends them pictures of herself, innocent ones. Usually they're actually pictures of me or my friends. She doesn't use strangers' pictures, who knows why, and considers them her friends, because though they don't really know who she is, she learns about them and their lives, gives them advice, gets advice, etc. Naturally, there's only so long this can hold out. She either gets caught by me or my brother, or called out by the person she was talking to, thanks Catfish the TV show, and then she has a complete breakdown. She comes to me crying about losing her friends and how she can't help or stop herself because she feels so inadequate compared to my brother and me. She's very lonely, and this seems to be the only way she can make friends. Now, before you respond with all the obvious stuff, please keep in mind that I have tried everything obvious to help her. And yes, this is about helping her. I want her to feel happy and comfortable with herself. She's a beautiful girl, genuinely, but my brother and I are both a bit older than her and have quite a lot of success in the things we do. I've tried explaining to her that when I was 15, I was just like her, minus the pathological lying of course, and that everything I have she'll get with time, but she just doesn't see it. She's been diagnosed with depression, which is probably a big cause of all of this. Our parents aren't helpful, they think she'll grow out of it. If they're right, dear God, please tell me. I feel like each time her catfishing just gets more elaborate and dangerous for us, since she shares details of our personal lives in lieu of her own. Though it's a mix, I don't think anyone would be able to track us down or anything, but it's definitely enough to make me paranoid. But as such, since I'm only a student, I feel like I'm on my own in wanting to help her, and even though she says she wants to get better, she keeps relapsing. Our parents think I'm overreacting or being dramatic, and that may be so, but they're not the ones who comfort her and end up explaining to the people she's hurt what's happened, or have their personal information leaked. It really breaks my heart to see her do this to herself each time. She really loves the people she talks to, but she ends up hurting them and herself in the process. I'm really not interested in hearing about how despicable and manipulative you may think she is. This is about helping a troubled child, not bashing her. Thank you. Well, OP, the first thing that would come to mind would be she needs therapy. I know it sounds like the lazy go-to response, but as I've said other times, I'm not a mental health professional. However, from what you're describing, it would sound to me like she has some sort of identity crisis, or that she's having trouble knowing who she is if she's presenting herself online as who she would wish to be, you know, herself but with other traits like yours. Also, your parents are being horrible parents if they just think that this is a phase and that she'll grow out of it. This girl needs help. I understand that what she's doing is manipulative and she is hurting people, but this is not a healthy trend for her in any way, of course. So again, the only thing that comes to mind and how to help her would be to take her to therapy. Not medicate her or anything like that right away, but actually try to help her understand what her issues are, how to cope with them, how to fix them, and how to move on from them. I mean, if it were my kid, that's what I would do, because this doesn't sound like a prank or anything if she's actually getting her emotions involved because she ends up loving these people as friends and then feels devastated when they call her out and leave her. And what do you guys think, or what would you do if you were in OP's shoes? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Girl Rediscovered says, the poor wee thing. She's scared to be herself because she thinks she isn't interesting. How about an involved hobby? Turn her imagination to story writing, something that can get into competitions, public forums that she can get recognition for. The other way is to point out that by sharing your photos and personal details without permission, she's putting you in danger from stalkers, etc. And Opie responds, thank you for being sympathetic, and that's a really good idea, but I've already thought of it, heart. The thing is, I'm a writer myself. I can't get her to do anything that either myself or my brother does because she thinks she's not as good at it. The irony is, she's a pretty good writer. I'd say much better than myself. She has a great imagination. If she used it for good instead of bad, it could be fantastic. Sad face. And yeah, I've pointed it out, she's basically convinced herself that wouldn't happen because she uses so many conflicting things no one would be able to find us based on the information. Krika Khan says, it seems like she's very lacking in terms of confidence in herself as a person. I went through a small bit of this when I was younger and I discovered that one of the ways to overcome it is to find out what your agency is in life, regardless of its long or short term, and work towards it. If you realize what you want in life, you'll be much happier and much more loving towards yourself as a person. It will also help externally since in pursuing your dream, you'll come into contact with people with extremely common interests. So my advice may be to see if she has some sort of concrete goal in life and have her work towards that as an effort to boost her self-worth. Another very important thing, although cliché, is to let her know that you are there for her and that you genuinely believe in her worth as a person, even if she herself does not see it yet. And Opie responds, thanks, I've tried finding things for her, and every time she shows an interest in something, I always accommodate her and encourage our parents to help her to do the thing, but often they just don't stick. I'll keep an eye out though, smiley face. And yeah, she knows I'm always here for her, which is one of the reasons I'm always the one doing the cleanup. It's tough because I can't tell if my presence is hindering or helping her sometimes. Saarnath says, as someone who has been catfished and catfished in return, it's very complicated. She probably doesn't like herself and feels like no one would actually want to be friends with her if they knew who she was. It's a very delicate phenomenon because the person who does the catfishing is usually hurting a lot inside. But in the end, they end up driving away from the people they consider to be their only friends with their lying. I was horribly catfished as a kid by a girl pretending to be a guy. It messed me up for a long time. Hell, I still think about it. It can do serious damage to people, especially trusting kids. I catfished a few people after that, but I haven't done it in years because I realized how damaging it is to both parties. I'm ridiculously familiar with this topic, so if you want more detailed advice or examples, message me anytime. And Opie responds, thank you, it's so good to hear from someone who did similar things to her. She doesn't seem to realize how much it can hurt the people she's talking with, as each time she thinks they won't find out, and then they obviously do. I've tried sitting her down and explaining, and we've watched episodes of Catfish together, but she just can't seem to connect that she's doing what those people are doing. How did you realize it was damaging? Maybe I could help her to realize in the same way? Additional information from OP's comments. I've tried helping her find hobbies, and every time she shows an interest in something, I always accommodate her and encourage our parents to help her do them, but often they just don't stick. And on the topic of my parents, I've tried sitting down with them and explaining to them, showing them Catfish episodes, etc., but they just continue to tell me that I'm being dramatic. They pay for her to see a psychologist and accommodate her, but they also ignore her and write off her issues as faces. They don't think her catfishing is good, but the second I start talking about the long-lasting effects and dangers, they completely shut down any conversation. She does have a psychologist she sees regularly. I'm unsure if he knows, as obviously their meetings are confidential. I'm worried about talking to him myself because she might consider it a betrayal of trust and stop talking to me and seeking out for my help. Also, she's on antidepressants and my parents watch her take them to make sure she is. Now, our parents also do things for and with her, despite their crappy attitudes. Usually, it's her who is putting up blogs about doing things with them, which makes sense as they're a pain often. This is a lot more complicated than telling them, your family is crap, spend more time with your child. My brother and I are both performing arts kinds of people, amongst other things. I think the attention we've gotten through this is something that fueled her losing confidence. No matter how hard I tried to include her, she doesn't want to do things that we're also good at, even though they would probably be great options for her. However, by the time she was a certain age, we were at least 5 years older already novices in whatever performing arts subject she took an interest in. She's always hated not being as good as us instantly, not realizing or not caring that the only reason we got good was that we've had the 5+ years of practice. Maybe I'm a pushover, and I understand that another part of the problem here is my unwillingness to act tough. But when I am tough on her, she doesn't react well, and then out of concern for her mental health, I begin to crumble. And actually, I'm the only person who is soft on her. Everyone else is pretty harsh. And I feel like if I were also to leave her to her own devices or be harsh, she would really feel like she has no one left. So my issue is that if I don't supply her with comfort, no one will. And I do understand that a firmer hand is probably needed. Maybe a better alternative is to talk to her psychologist alone and then maybe with her to see what can be done. However, her psychologist doesn't specialize in compulsive lying to my knowledge, but he's a really upstanding guy. OP's edit. Thank you all so much for your advice. I've collected and listened to everything, and my next steps are to talk to her psychologist privately to make sure he's aware. Possibly have a meeting with the 3 of us before I go back to my uni town. Enroll her in a couple of different kinds of classes. We're going to read some stories from catfished people on Reddit together. Special thanks to all the people who shared theirs. One of the most recent people she catfished actually spoke to her as well, and since then, she seems very willing to get better. At the moment, class-wise, I'm thinking horse riding. Got a great PM for someone in a similar situation to my sister who this worked for, and or cooking. Also going to continue to build her confidence in smaller ways too. Well, it sounds like the community gave OP some pretty decent advice, at least much better than whatever I came up with, and OP has a plan in order to do something. So now let's move on to the update 3 months after the original post to see how things are working out and how the story ends. First, I want to say a huge thank you to the people who've commented and PM'd, and who've PM'd me since for updates on the situation. She had one small relapse about a week after I made the original post. There were some mixed opinions about what to do, but after reading everything, I decided on a few things. 1. Find her hobbies, as specifically enroll her in a horse riding class. I'm actually terrified of horses, so yay! 2. Talk to her psychologist. 3. Read a bunch of catfishing stories on Reddit or other places to try and get her to be a little more empathetic. If you read the old thread, you'll know that my parents were anything but helpful towards the situation, despite how I tried to explain to them it was serious. While they think I'm being ridiculous, they didn't care as long as I paid for the horse riding classes. I would have liked to enroll her in a cooking class or something else creative, but unfortunately, I'm a student and I just can't afford more than that one. Anyway, I live, study, and work out of town, so my brother takes her out every weekend to go horse riding, which has been really good for their relationship too. The change after about 2 months was obvious. She's never been overweight or ugly, but doing the physical activity has really brightened her up. She's got color in her cheeks, she sleeps better, talks about horses all the time, and she's just genuinely loving it. She's made friends there too, which is fantastic. She's a lot more confident. Speaking to her super overpriced psychologist, he expressed to me that he thinks my parents are narcissists and that a lot of her issues are the result of being the youngest in a household where my brother and I were pushed to overachieve. And when she couldn't keep up purely because of being younger, it gave her a big complex. I told him about the catfishing and he said not to worry, that she's spoken to him about it and they're working on it together. Then he told me, "So, do you have daddy issues? I've always thought you were so beautiful." He's 40 plus, met me a few times over the 2-ish years she's been seeing him when I dropped her off, and asked me out. I was so flustered and surprised that I didn't even realize how incredibly inappropriate it was until I'd left the building, so I didn't get a chance to chew him out. Money can't buy class. I demanded my parents let her see her school counselor instead, and they agreed. Just a side note, My sister said she never got any kind of creep vibes from him and he never acted inappropriately towards her, and I believe her. Still, I went to her new counselor myself, told her everything, and gave her my own contact information, since apparently their children needing mental health assistance isn't on my parents' list of stuff we should be reasonably expected to deal with. This woman is incredible, much more in touch than the other guy, and my sister seems to really admire her, even talking about maybe doing social work one day. I'm amazed and thrilled at the difference after just 3 months. Every now and then, my brother, or me if I'm home, spontaneously checks her laptop, with her consent, to make sure she isn't catfishing. We've found no evidence, and we're both tech savvy enough to know where to look. She seems embarrassed that she did it at all, like she just wants to forget about the whole thing. She even wrote me a letter thanking me for everything I've done, confessing to things she's done that I never knew about, and apologizing for all of it, including using my pictures. My eyes did not remain precisely dry while reading. Hopefully this positive trend in her life will continue. Thanks again to everyone who helped. Well, OP, I'm going to call this an extremely happy update. Your sister's life has totally turned around in a good way. This is amazing. Awesome job. And just like you, I do hope that this positive trend in her life keeps going. Thank you so much for sharing, OP, and all the best to all of you in the future. Now, let's move on to the next post. This post is from the subreddit Malicious Compliance, and it's by user Snortgiggles. You want to make things fair? I'll show you fair. A couple of weeks ago, my kids and the neighbors decided to have a bake sale. We live in a tourist area with high foot traffic, and the kids make a killing. I tell the kids I ought to charge them for the labor. I said I'd help bake and ingredients so they learn the concept of net gains, but instead I'll donate to their cause, and just to bring me back my money I lent them to make a change. I love seeing the kids be entrepreneurial, work so hard, and get so excited at their success. After a couple of hours, the neighbor's son decides he's bored and wants to go home, so he tells my kid, "When you're done, come by and deliver half the money." Mine says, "Hey, that's not fair. If you're leaving, we should split the money now." Mind you, the bulk of their sales was my baking. The neighbor kid gets super pissed, but mine sticks to their guns. They split the money and the kid leaves in a huff. Mine comes in a few hours later, having lugged home all the gear and cleaned up, annoyed that the neighbor kid got annoyed at them. Then I get a knock on the door. It's the neighbor's mom with the kid, who is still pouting, and mom's holding a receipt. Mom explains that they purchased a bunch of stuff for the bake sale. It cost a lot of money, and it's not fair that my kid is making money off their stuff, and that they should be compensated for what they purchased. The receipt lists a bunch of items I immediately see they didn't use, like 2 boxes of cereals when they used 1, napkins that I ended up providing, but whatever. And never mind that her son went home early and left mine to clean up, and never mind that I'd been churning out batches of cookies all morning. I'm irked they've taken what was a fun, cheerful day of kids making money hand over fist and shown up at my door making me engage in a super awkward conversation because they assume their kid can't be wrong. So I say, of course, and fetch my receipts. I sit down in front of them and out loud calculate the cost of lemonade and cups used. I calculate the cost of flour, sugar, chocolate chips, vanilla, and butter per batch of cookies, multiplied by the number of batches made. I toss in the baking soda for free, so generous. I even subtract the value of leftover cookies. Did I mention I made a lot of cookies? The neighbor's kid had to fork over $23. They got pretty quiet all of a sudden. I thanked the lady for making sure things were fair and offered her a plate of cookies to take home. She declined. The end. Ha! Nicely done, OP. They got owned. Love this story. Thank you so much for sharing, OP. And it's that time that we've reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. I really did enjoy reading them to you. So if you did, then don't be shy and go ahead and give the video a like. And don't forget to subscribe or even share this video with people that you might think will enjoy my storytelling. Also, if you have the time, go down to the video description and check out all the links I have for you, from our Discord community to my channel merch. And finally, I'd like to say thank you for watching. It really means a lot to me that you enjoy my videos. And having said all that, I'll see you guys in the next video.